We are here on a modification. The parties have a partial agreement, so I'll read the agreed portions. Parties agree that the father's wages, as reported by his employer, is $1,261 a month. The father is in agreement to pay child support in the amount of $210 a month. Father has no other children, and father is in agreement to pay medical support at $113 a month. Child is currently on the government plan. The contested issue pertains to possession and access, so I will take testimony.
Is that a pleading that we've had before us today?
The modification?
Yeah, visitation. Is it part of a pleading?
In the prior order, there was no possession and access ordered because the father was incarcerated at that time,
Okay.
and
I'm
he's no
not,
longer
but
incarcerated.
there's no pleadings for that.
For
For visitation to be changed?
no.
Okay. I cannot change those. That's something y'all will need to talk about after court. If you want to agree to something different agree to something that works, definitely y'all can discuss that later. If it's something y'all cannot agree to, then one of you will need to file a pleading with the court to discuss that issue at a later date, but not today. All right, Ms. Natalie, go ahead and call the parties.
Thank you. Ms. Gutierrez, can you please state your full name?
Natalie Nicole Gutierrez Payan.
Can you please state the name and the age of your child?
Victor Jacobs Jr. Date of birth is 11/17/2017. He is 7 years old.
Thank you, ma'am. Did you hear the agreed portions that I read?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, and is that still your agreements?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe they're in the best interest of your child?
I do, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and are you asking the court to accept it today?
I am.
Thank you. Pass the witness, Your Honor. Mr. Jacobs, can you please state your full name?
Victor Manuel Jacobs.
Mr. Jacobs, did you hear the agreed portions that I read?
Yes, ma'am.
Are those portions still your agreements?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe they're in the best interest of your child?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you asking the court to accept it today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And sir, you understand that you didn't file any pleadings to address possession and access at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
And so those matters are not before the court.
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, I'll approve your agreement. Ms. Gutierrez, about to let you leave. We raised your hand. What do you?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted clarification for Mr. Jacobs' side that as of today, there is nothing in our court order that suggests that he should have visitations, and should he want visitation with his son, he needs to file a plea hearing.
Well, it's kind of the two things here. We want to do things easy. Nobody wants to have to go to court. Nobody wants to hire attorneys. Costs money and time. And the result's going to be, unless there's a really good reason other than I just don't want to, they're going to give Mr. Jacobs a visitation. So the easy answer is talk to Mr. Jacobs. Your child wants to visit with Mr. Jacobs. I don't know all the facts of what's happened before. I doubt that unless Mr. Jacobs was a danger to the child, then he's going to get visitation. So make this easy. Your child wants to visit his father, even if you say he doesn't. I don't believe that. A 7-year-old wants to visit with Mr. Jacobs. Figure something out that's easy, that works for both of you. If you need to do it a little bit at a time, like maybe a few hours at a time, instead of a whole weekend to start off, that would be fine. The child is with a stranger every August, and you leave them there 40 hours a week, and that's a teacher. So why not have the child be with father for a weekend? Okay, so y'all need to figure it out on your own. If you have to come to court and there's really no reason, they may give Mr. Jacobs even more visitation. So, easy way, figure it out yourselves. The child wants to visit. And if you want to have to meet at a public place, you can do that, but for the exchanges. But there really aren't a lot of limitations here anymore with a 7-year-old. So figure it out yourselves. If you can't figure it out, then you have to come to court, and you might not get the result you actually want.
Okay, and
So
just for
like I said, I'm
clarification,
trying to encourage you.
it's not to prevent him from visiting his father. That is fine. My question is, in our current hearing, I guess as far as our current order, it does not state there that there's any sort of visitation rights to Mr. Jacobs. Am I understanding that correctly?
I haven't looked at your old order, but
Okay.
figure it
Yeah.
out without having to have a court order. You understand that?
Well, there was history of domestic violence, sir. So because of that, I
But to
would
the
like
child,
not to the child, no, sir.
okay, then it has nothing to do with the child. Okay,
So as far as the
there are
schedule,
ways, there are ways to figure it out, like meeting at an exchange location so that you're safe and he's safe, and exchange a child, and the child goes to Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Jacobs
yes.
brings the child back to that exchange location. And we want to make sure you're safe, definitely. But unless he hurt the child, there's really no other reason.
He doesn't, I guess my thing is I'm not trying to prevent him from visiting. My son doesn't have a relationship with Mr. Jacobs at this time, and I think he can somewhat agree to that. He's been incarcerated since my child has been a year and a half. So ultimately, there's some, rebuilding that needs to be done. But I would like for something to be in the order. So you're suggesting that we revisit this to have that modified in that order, or does Mr. Jacobs have to do that, or do I have to do that to
When are
show?
you going to hire an attorney?
Got it. Okay.
Who wants to pay $1,000, $3,000, $5,000 to do that when y'all can talk it out? Ms. Gutierrez,
No,
what you have to be more open than where you were before. Okay, this is not a stranger, even though he hasn't visited. He is his dad. It's not going to take long for a 7-year-old to know that this is his dad. It's probably going to take about 5 minutes. Okay,
can I
so
say something, Your
we're
Honor?
not talking about a 1-year-old. We're talking about a 7-year-old. Okay, it's a 7-year-old, like I said, visits with a stranger that you never met before every August, and
No,
you
I
trust that
understand.
person.
So
So
in this
let
case,
Mr. Jacobs visit. There's nothing else to talk about. Let Mr. Jacobs visit. Figure out a schedule. Put it in writing. If you want to put it in a text or an email so that y'all both have no confusion about it, go ahead. But you need to make it more accessible for Mr. Jacobs to visit, period. You telling me that there's other reasons. I understand those reasons. I'm not trying to say they didn't happen, but those are excuses as to why Mr. Jacobs is not being allowed to visit. So when it still comes back to maybe you're not letting him visit. Maybe there's some things you need to see, like maybe him take a drug test or something. I don't know. But that's a one-time thing that he can do. But that's something y'all need to talk about. Again, try to do it on your own without having to come to court. Because in the end, if you never get this done, your child's still going to want, as a 17-year-old, to know who his father is. And he's going to blame somebody for not doing it. And it's probably going to be the person that's taking the child away. Okay? So figure it out on your own. You need to stop thinking about what's best for me and what's best for the child. So let's figure that out. Talk about it after court so that y'all can get that done. All right, thank y'all. Y'all can press leave to exit out. Thank you.
Thank you.